Now, brothers, in closing, I want you to take this pledge. When I say I want you to say I, and I'll say your name. I know that there's so many names, but I want you to shout your name out so that the ancestors can hear it. Take this pledge with me. Say with me, please. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will strive to love my brother as I love myself. I say your name. From this day forward, will strive to improve myself spiritually, morally, mentally, socially, politically, and economically, for the benefit of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that I will strive to build business, build houses, build hospitals, build factories, and enter into international trade for the good of myself, my family, and my people. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never raise my hand with a knife or a gun to beat, cut, or shoot any member of my family or any human being except in self-defense. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will never abuse my wife by striking her, disrespecting her, for she is the mother of my children and the producer of my future. I say your name. Pledge that from this day forward, I will never engage in the abuse of children, little boys or little girls, for sexual gratification. But I will let them grow in peace to be strong men and women for the future of our people. I say your name. Will never again use the B word to describe any female, but particularly my own black sister. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward that I will not poison my body with drugs or that which is destructive to my health and my well-being. I say your name. Pledge from this day forward, I will support black newspapers, black radio, black television. I will support black artists who clean up their acts to show respect for themselves and respect for their people and respect for the ears of the human family.
on you rising up and being who God has called you to be. Do you know that there are whole generational curses that can be broken if you get a handle on your identity?
Well, good morning and happy Sunday, and welcome to Sunday School. I am your teacher this morning, Alonzo Richard Fleming Jr., and I want to thank everybody for joining me for Sunday School. We took a break for a couple of months. I had to go over some things in my own mind and try to reconcile some things in my own mind, and so we took pretty much the summer off. But I want to let you know that we are back, and we're hoping that you join us every Sunday morning. I think that we probably won't be doing the program on that Labor Day weekend, but other than that, you can join us at 9:45 Central Time every Sunday morning. Tell your friends, go ahead and share. If you go to my Facebook page, you will see the link for this morning's program, this morning's class, and you can go ahead and share it from my Facebook page. So share it with your friends. If you're listening on YouTube, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button, if you would get the notifications so that every Sunday you can get notified to attend Sunday School. That's if you're listening on YouTube. And if you like it, it increases the exposure that we have. And so if you think that we are saying something that's worth hearing, then go ahead and like us on Facebook, like us on YouTube, and that would be so helpful to this program, because especially now during this series that we have, it's very timely, and it is very important to tune in every Sunday. Now, let me give you my email address so that you can email me, and I will personally notify you about the program and other things that we have going on. We got a lot going on behind the scenes. That's just time. It's Alonzo Fleming with one M, Alonzo Fleming at outlook.com. That's my email address. Just send me a line and saying I'm in. You don't even have to write anything. Just in the subject line, say I'm in. And then I will begin to give you information and further instruction on where we're going, what we're doing, and how to get there. Alonzo Fleming at outlook.com. This morning, we are doing a lesson starting out the series, Let My People Go, The fall of America and the rise of the United States. The fall of America and the rise of the United States. And make sure, I want to just welcome everybody. Angela, I see you. Conchita, I see you. Everybody share it. Those of you who are in the chat room, I got a couple of chat rooms open. Share it. This is important, and the word has been put in my mouth. The rise of the United States, the fall of America. Let my people go. This morning's program is an introduction to the principles. It's the foundational class to help you to build the house that we're building here and understand what's going to be said through principle thinking. Also, let me say this too. I know we're back, and so indulge me just a little bit. Wednesdays, starting this coming Wednesday, we will be doing a program, Men's Talk Network. Men's Talk Network. And we'll be having interviews. It won't be me lecturing. It'll be interviews with different individuals, and you're going to enjoy that. This starting this Wednesday at 7, we're going to have some of the passport bros, this phenomenon that's occurring. They're going to be, I got a few of them going to show up this Wednesday, and we're going to talk about the passport bros and what's that's all about, and actually how it fits into all the things that we're saying. That's Men's Talk Network this Wednesday, 7:00 p.m. Central Time. Let my people go. The fall of America and the rise of the United States. Brothers and sisters, all of humanity, no matter race, creed, color, religion, ethnic background, all of humanity has a longing for peace. All of humanity has a longing to love and be loved. It's part of our essence. It's part of our nature. It's part of who we are as a species. At the root of our essence is love. That is the root of who we are. But there's been something built on top of that essence, that on top of that nature, that literally hides the essence of who we are. But at the root, all of humanity longs to love and longs to be loved. But there's another piece to that. Because of the ego, the devil, as the religious people talk in terms of, this is hidden. The root of us is hidden. And as a result, as we pass through time, there is a progression, there is an evolution of humanity towards the realization of his trueness, of his essence, and the essence of this entire universe, which is love. It is a progression. And through this progression, we have what we call birth, living, and death. We have this constant cycle of being born, of living, and dying, or going off the scene, as it were. This process that's rooted in time, the perception of time, does not spare anyone who comes upon this planet. It doesn't spare anything that appears on this planet. Humans go through this process of birth and living and passing. Birds and animals and planets and plants and rocks and universes, this process is part of time. And when we understand the true essence of time, because this evolutionary process that we're going through has at its basis time, but time itself is an illusion. Now, hang on with me as I lay this foundation for this morning. So we are learning how to collapse time as we evolve. And as we collapse time further and further from past and future to present and living in the essence of time, which is the present, or the essence of eternity, which is the present, then humanity and this universe will then sing the song, or then have the saying, which is found in the Bible in the book of Corinthians: "O death, where is thy sting? O grave, where are you?" See, it is the collapsing of time that does this, and the understanding of the trueness of time that gets us to this point. But it is an evolutionary process in time. I have recommended a book to us many, many times on my Facebook page called Principles for Dealing with a Changing World Order. Principles for Dealing with a Changing World Order. And in this book, there is a video, by the way, on YouTube that actually outlines this book. And it's a 45-minute YouTube presentation by Ray Dalio. And I, if you don't get the book, look at the video. The book is a pretty tough read, and I had to read it a couple of times just to get it. But anyway, in this book, in Ray Dalio's book, Principles for Dealing with a Changing World Order, he outlines by looking at 500 years of primarily European history, and he looked at the patterns in this 500 years of human or European history, and he noticed the changing orders over this 500-year period. Ray Dalio didn't look beyond the European experience. He stayed within the confines of the Europeans to talk in terms of money and conflict and things like that, to give an indication of when you know a world order is changing. So I went beyond that European history and did some digging about civilizations and world orders before the 500-year period. And I noticed that the same thing that Ray Dalio has in his book, Principles for Dealing with the Changing World Order, it applied to any civilization, whether it be Nubia, whether it be African, whether it be Senegal, wherever the order that was the dominant power that was ruling the planet or the known world, they followed this same process, this same pattern of being born, the nation being born, rising to power, living and exerting that power, and then declining and finally passing off the scene. There are two periods in this process, or what Ray Dalio called this process of rising and falling. There are two periods that are the most dangerous. It is the period where a nation rises, and it is the period of its descent and its fall. Those are the two most dangerous periods, because those are the periods that are filled with the confusion, with the fear, and with unreasonable thinking. Those two periods, the period of its rise and the period of its fall. And by the time you get to the end of it, he says that you will see certain things occurring at the same time. There was a question placed on Facebook or Twitter, I forget where I saw it. I think it was Angela wrote this question about why haven't we been able to build another Black Wall Street? This introductory piece here today will approach that question, but it will be buried in what I'm saying. So this period of confusion, Ray Dalio says that you will see certain conflicts, certain order and disorder signs that will be happening at the same time. And you can use mathematics to calculate about where you are in it. It is not a hocus pocus. You don't have to keep saying it's coming soon. You don't have to keep saying for thousands of years it's coming soon when you use mathematics. You can pinpoint with a certain degree of accuracy the time and what must be done in that time when you're using mathematics as your basis for your thinking. We can chart and tell you when the next time Halley's Comet is going to come around the earth. We can tell you the day it's going to come using mathematics. We can tell you what time the sun is going to rise using mathematics and what time it's going to set using mathematics and physics. You are freed from guesswork to a great degree. And you don't have to depend on belief, because you have at the basis of your thinking faith, which is a law. And faith and belief are not the same thing. So Ray Dalio in his book and me in my studies have come to the same conclusion about what you will see at the end of a civilization and a world order, and you can calculate about when it's going to happen. And when you are able to calculate the decline or the rise, you then have access to the component of time, and then you're able to understand what must be done where you are in time. But you got to use the mathematics, or you got to depend on somebody who is using mathematics. You can't use fear. You can't use threat. You can't use some hocus pocus that this is going to occur. There have been many religions, many political systems, many nations and systems that have come and have been able to deceive many by just keep repeating something without any indication of whether or not that thing can or will occur. You don't have to do that. See, it says, to whom the Son sets free is free indeed. You don't have to use fear, and you don't have to succumb to fear to understand what time you're in and what must be done. So Ray Dalio said that you will see certain cycles going on and certain things happening at the same time, one of which is an internal order and disorder component. And this internal or internal order and disorder component of a nation, whether it be rising, falling, or at its peak, but I'm going to talk about it, the fall of it. You will see the disorder component of it when there is internal conflict of a nature that goes beyond what a relationship that you can actually, there are certain rules that you have in a relationship. This internal conflict goes beyond that. And what I mean by that is that this internal conflict of a nation in decline will be such that nothing is agreed upon. There's no such thing as truth. He lied. No, he didn't lie. They're just trying to convict him because they don't want him to be president. There's nothing that's agreed upon. The relationship within that nation is such that they cannot come together on anything. And the prophet said that no house that's divided can stand. And so in this internal struggle, you have the Republicans and you have the Democrats. The MAGA Republicans and the liberal Democrats are such that they don't agree on anything. They are at the extreme. On one extreme, the MAGAs want a white nation. Oh, that's at the root of it. And the black man finds himself in the middle of this again. On the other extreme, the liberals want to go back to what was normal. We're one nation under God. Everything was cool before this MAGA movement has come up, and you see absolutely no agreement on anything. You can turn to one station and it's almost like the crimes have never been committed. And on the other station, it's like that's all he has done is committed crimes. And you and I are in the middle of it, but we don't see it. We don't understand it. We're going day to day, just living life as though you have absolutely no understanding of what's on the horizon and what's taking place right before your eyes. And you're confused because you're trying to choose sides. You don't understand the relationship of this internal conflict that's happening in this nation. Yet you have prayed for this. Your ancestors prayed that the back of white supremacy be broken. And you don't understand the answer. And so this internal conflict is going on such that the nation is split down the middle. With even the time that this man has been up under, he is the focal point of the conflict, of the relationship that has now failed. Even though the man is under 4 accusations, 4 indictments, when you get the polls, half of the country would still vote for him, in spite of the fact that he's under 4 indictments. The last presidential election, 78 or 74 million white people voted for Donald Trump under the present situation when they knew of the offenses against the Constitution. 74 million still voted for him. It was the first election, the election that he won, I should say, was first a backlash for them having to bow down as such to a Negro. And so it was the Negro president that served as the lightning rod so that you can bring to the surface the true nature of what you're dealing with and what you're trying to build in. And so 74 million white folk voted for Donald Trump in the last election, yet he still lost. Why? We're talking about the internal order and disorder here. He lost because there were many, many whites who saw through it, as well as the rest of the nation that make up the United States. You got to understand this. This conflict is a war between America and the United States. Now, this war is not a new war. The first time it turned into a hot war was back in the Civil War, the Civil War, when America broke away or seceded from the United States. And during Reconstruction, after America lost, they said, okay, we'll be part of the Union if you get these Negroes off of horses with guns down here patrolling us and causing us to comply with the rules of the United States. And so the United States said to the Americans of the South, see, it was America. Read this declaration when they succeeded. America succeeded from the United States. Make America great again. Get these niggas off of these horses and take these guns from them, and we will comply with the rules of the United States. So they say, okay. Reconstruction was over. The black man was put back in the tool shed, and that's when you had Jim Crow and black codes and all the lynchings. That's when you had it. It was a revenge against the black man siding with the United States against America. It's when you couldn't vote. That's when they made laws against your voting. Laws against where you can be. Laws against what you could learn. This is when that happened. And so the white liberal was saying, okay, long as y'all stay part of the United States, we'll tolerate it to some degree. How you treat your Negroes. And as a result, this cancer called America metastasized until it worked its way up into the White House. And they start saying, make America great again. Not the United States. Make America great again. And we're standing on the side talking about, well, when was America ever great? What time was America ever great? And the answer never comes. Because this dog whistle, which is, they all know what's being said when you say, make America great again. They all know what's being said, and you know what's being said. And so here we are today. You see, in one state, you can't teach anything about being black and the contributions to blackness or what we have done in this nation. In another state, you can't vote. They make it difficult for voting. Well, we done marched. We done had civil rights laws. We done protested. We are getting killed at the drop of a hat. You can't let your sons out the door by themselves because you don't know what they're going to encounter because they're so quick on the trigger. Before I can even get this program done today, we got another innocent young man just doing a job. The boy don't even look like he was 21 years old. A son and his father chased the man down in a FedEx truck and shot the truck up. The police hid the evidence against the son and the father. So you don't know who's who in this zoo. You're in the middle of it, black man. You don't understand the relationship and how to generalize the evolutionary process that you're going through, that your ancestors prayed for. And so now we're about to get to that. It says in the Declaration of independence, when in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to break the political bands that it has with another people and to take among themselves the equal stations in life which the God have given to them. It is not God that's got you bowing down under white supremacy, whether you be a white man in skin, a black man, a red man, a yellow man. It is not God got you bowing down, even though they are putting this stuff out in the name of Jesus. And so the white Christians and the black Christians, which seem to read the same Bible, the black Christians see a devil in Donald Trump, and the white Christians who read the same Bible see Jesus himself. We got a problem, Houston. You don't understand the relationship and how relationships change in order to fulfill the evolutionary process that humanity must go through. You understand this relationship process in your own lives, but because when we got an over 50% divorce rate, you understand that when you get to a point to where you have irreconcilable differences, you understand this, that we split up what we built together and go our separate ways. You understand it. When you have irreconcilable differences, it means that it doesn't matter what one or the other does, and each one is blaming the other for the ills. And there's enough blame to go around if you really looked at it, no matter what you are dealing with. You understand that when you have irreconcilable differences, you're divorced. The preacher is talking, but he's divorced. The evangelist is talking, but she's divorced. I'm talking, but I'm divorced. So we understand irreconcilable differences. And we understand that when you have irreconcilable differences, you split what you have built together and you go your separate way. You understand it. But now I want you to generalize this principle when it comes to nations. There comes a time in nations when one wants to keep an old way. And that's what the MAGA thing is all about. We want to make America great again. Again. So instead of you wondering about your experience, you ask them, when was America great? And because you can't stand to hear them tell the truth, because every time one of them tell the truth, you shut him down and start marching against them. So as a result, you can't hear the truth. Well, we want to be separate. We want to be white. This is a white man's nation, and we want to be white, and we want to go on, and it's all right. But that's America. The United States is where we're going now. Let them go. The evolutionary process dictates that humanity come together and grow. So you got to shed off the tares. You got to shed off the aggressive weeds. You got to root them up and shed them and bundle them for the fire. And then gather the wheat into the barn. So let them grow together. But we have grown together now. And now you see the nature of both of them. You see the nature of America and you see the nature of the United States. The nature of the United States is the human family. Whatever state you happen to be in, whatever mental state you happen to be in, physical state you happen to be in, the United States is God's vision for humanity. But America got to go. Elijah Muhammad wrote a book called The Fall of America. And I read that book many, many times, and I just couldn't reconcile in my mind how he's saying that the nation under which I was born and which I had grown to love had to fall. Until I looked deeper. He didn't say the fall of the United States. He said the fall of America. So our subject is, let my people go, the fall of America and the rise of the United States. Ray Dalio continued in his book regarding the big cycles and what you would see at the end of a world order. You would see an external conflict. At the same time you have an internal conflict, you will see an external conflict brewing. Let's say you have two people, a married couple, and they're fighting, and you got a man outside the fight looking in on it, and he wants the wife. Well, he will exploit that situation, be a comfort to the wife or to the husband, whichever the case happens to be, in order to widen the wedge between them and ensure the destruction of that marriage. Well, in this big cycle that Ray talks about, you have at the same time this conflict, it's internal conflict within the nation. You will have an external conflict of those who are rising up, who represent or want to represent the rising or the next world order. And so here we have Russia, China, and the BRICS nations, and most of Africa siding with Russia and China. Because America has gone around the planet and exploited so many that everybody on planet Earth has been waiting for the opportunity for another world order that's going to treat them right, another husband, as it were, that's going to treat them right. And so America is trying to woo back into the fold the African nations while China is building. China is investing. The BRICS nations are investing in Africa and all over Latin America and all through the world. And America is exporting weapons of death, and China is exporting business. And so they say that the business of America is China is business. And so with this new conflict, this rising power, you see them trying to kill off your dollar as the planetary reserves currency, meaning that everyone uses dollars around the world. And as you see this dollar being replaced, you will see inflation happening, because this inflation represents the devaluing of your currency. That's what inflation represents, the devaluing of your currency. So they have to print more. And you see Saudi Arabia now investing in other places. And so this petrodollar that we have, that y'all depend on, that some of you are talking about, I want a six-figure man. You're going to have a six-figure man in a little bit. It just ain't going to be no good. If you build your house on sand, when the waves come, you're going to see the house being destroyed. So this external conflict is happening, and you see this war going on in Ukraine, which is the focal point of the conflict between a rising world power and a declining one. And then we have a hot point called Taiwan. And the question is, if China takes over Taiwan or attacks Taiwan, will America help? America doesn't have any money because of the debt. Another thing you will see at the end of a world order is the rise in technology, a leap of technology that surpasses the technological advancements of the current world order. And this technological advancement will displace the current world order. And so now we don't have PhDs in science and engineering and particle physics. We have to import them to teach our children in our universities. It is a representative of the technological leap that is taking place around the world that is leaving America behind. And so as this world order passes away and the new world order rise, we see this conflict overall happening. And the last little thing, I'll say that and hit it quickly, I'm not going to bore you too long, is the rise, the unusual rise in natural disasters. Wind and heat and hail and fire, all seeming to be happening at the same time. Need I say more about that? And so it was Minister Farrakhan 2 years ago that he's told us to watch the weather. He said, because judgment is over the head of America and not peace. She has raised the sword up against the planet, and the same sword she has raised up against the planet hangs over her own head. And so the lesson introduction this morning is Moses teaching is found in the book of Exodus. And I want you to read that whole story because that's what I'm going to hit on, and then I'm going to let you go. In the book of Exodus, there's this story laid out about the children of Israel being freed from slavery. They were up under this great power called Egypt. It was the biggest dog on the block. It had more power than any other nation on earth. And while this didn't happen way back when, it's happening now. You're able to take extract the principles out of that story to help you to understand the spiritual implications and where you are right now in time. And thereby getting an understanding of what must be done and what you must do. I got a friend, I'm always telling him, I'm saying, listen, I got to do this. I got to do this. See, because when you get access into this, you get access into what must be done. So Moses grew up in the upper echelons of Egypt, but he still identified with his Hebrew brothers who were slaves out there. They were praying during that time, God help us, God save us, God rescue us. They had gods, but they were the gods of the Egyptians. They were the gods that the slaves were praying to in all of their churches all throughout Egypt, the gods that the Egyptians had given to them. But they were praying and those gods never answered. They went to the church of Amun-Ra, the church of Hotep, the church of this, the church of that. Their gods never answered. They bowed down and sacrificed, ate his blood and drank his flesh. They worshiped him and called on him to save their sons from the brutality of the Egyptians. but he never answered. But the God of their fathers answered. And so he came through Moses, and he called Moses out of the big house. And he said, Moses, I want you to go out here, and I want you to look at your brethren so that you identifying with and see where this oppression is coming from and see what it's actually doing to your brothers. And so Moses goes out, and he realizes what's going on and that something's got to be done. And so the first thing Moses did was he went to two of his brethren that was out there fighting, and he began to correct them on how they treated each other right in the midst of the slave situation. He didn't take them out of the slave situation and taught them. He did it while they were in the situation. They had to learn how to get along with one another. That required them relinquishing certain thinking, the thinking that had been given to them by the Pharaoh through his gods, through his political system, through his social structure. And so the first time he did this, one of them said, the one that was in the wrong, he said, well, who made you judge over us? Are you going to kill us like you killed the Egyptian? And so Moses became an outlaw. He was the smartest of them, but he was an outlaw. They told on him. They had him put in jail. And they caused him to have to abandon his place in Pharaoh's system. So when he gets out from among the Pharaoh, when he's going through the desert, through the hard times, it's when the God was able to talk to him and introduce himself to Moses. See, because Moses, if you remember, Moses grew up in Pharaoh's house. He knew warfare. He knew how to eat. He knew how to think, but he didn't know the God of his father. He knew the gods of the Egyptians, the oppressor. And that's who he was bowing down to. Well, this God comes to Moses and introduces himself. I want you to get the principles going on in here because they're down there, but you got to look at it deeper. Look beyond the story. He stopped him and he said, take your shoes off, for the ground you are standing on is holy ground. Well, what does that signify? The way you are walking and the shoes you are using to get where you want to go are not fit for the journey I'm about to take you on, Moses. Take them shoes off. See, in the Bible, in the book of Galatians, it talks about being the fruit of the Spirit or the sword of the Spirit or the armor of God. And it said, have your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Take them shoes off that was given to you by Pharaoh. You're walking the wrong way and they're unworthy of the ground that you are walking on. Take them off. And so Moses took them off and began to walk on holy ground. Began to walk in the environment of which he was made for. And he introduced himself to Moses. He says, you understand, I have been among the people and I've heard their cries and I've come to free them from the hand of Pharaoh and take them out of the house of bondage. The house of bondage, brothers and sisters, represent the rules and regulations under which you are living in that house and trying to become equal with the builder of that house. It's insane. He said, I want you to go tell them to let them go. Tell Pharaoh to let my people go. Now, you will notice in this story that the God sent Moses to Pharaoh, but he did something else. And let me get to it. Just bear with me here for a little bit. He said, I am the God of thy fathers. Why did he say that? Because Moses knew who the gods of the Egyptian were, and that they had given these gods to the slaves. So the slaves had no idea of the God that was of their essence. So when God told Moses that I'm going to free them from the house of bondage or the rules that they've been using to try to survive in an insane environment, Moses said, I know who these niggas are. They ain't going to believe me. They going to say, well, who the hell is that? Put it in your vernacular. Don't pretend like y'all don't talk this way at home. He said, they're not going to believe me. They're going to ask me, who are you? And so the God says, I'm the God of your fathers. And then he listed the names of their fathers so that they would know that he knew what he was talking about. They had forgotten who their fathers were, thereby not knowing who the God of their fathers are or is. But he reminded them of what was already in them. I am the God of your fathers. I am that I am. I'm the God of your fathers. So the first thing God had to do was to introduce them to him. The second thing was to tell Moses to go to Pharaoh and say, let my people go. And the third thing he had to do was to then give instructions to the people. So God tells Moses in this story, I want you to call the elders together, and I want you to tell them to talk to the people. Now, I read this story from the time I was a little boy, and I'm thinking, man, and it just didn't, no, this don't make no sense. If they slaves, why would the slave master allow this guy to come to them and say to them, look at here, this is what God's about to do. I want you to tell the elders and they're going to spread the word. No. Pharaoh was dealing with them wisely. How was Moses able to get word to all of the elders of the people who didn't believe that he had met God? How was he able to do that? I'm here to tell you, black man, that you're greater than you think you are. You're more knowledgeable than you think you are. And you are thought of more than you think you are. I thought about it, and I'll let the question go. How do you do that? That don't make no sense. He couldn't do nothing like that, because if I was a oppressor, if I was dealing wisely, the first thing I'd do is knock him out as soon as he come back and start talking to the elders and telling the elders, look, I come to free you from the Egyptians. I would knock him out right then, because I'm thinking, and I got a military, and I'm dealing wisely with them to keep them ignorant, dumb, stupid, killing each other, and doing all manner of evil against each other. I'm going to preempt that. So how was Moses able to gather the elders together to tell them, to tell the people this thing about this God? Didn't make sense to me for a long time. Until 1995. October 16th, 1995 is when this made sense to me. Because here's what happened. See, I'm an elder now. I'm an elder now. But 27 years ago, I was a youth. I was not an elder 27 years ago. I was a youth 27 years ago. I'm an elder now. Do you see where I'm going? So God had to do it in such a way, gather the elders together in a way that the Pharaoh would not understand the plan of God, and it would allow it to occur. And so that when the elders became elders, see, God saw you from the beginning. And so 2 million of us youth gathered on the mall in October of 1995, the 16th. We were youth, and Pharaoh's looking, oh, this is a peaceful thing. They ain't coming here to raid on us. They ain't coming here to do anything. He don't know he being set up. See, you think that this story in the book of Moses or the book of Exodus happened over a couple of days. But this happened over decades, because you got to remember that Moses was as a child when he was found. But October 16th, the elders were gathered by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and we took a pledge, which I played for you. This pledge represented him gathering us together and giving us the instructions that when we became of age and became elders, that we would speak to the people and tell them that he represents the God of our fathers. Now, I'm going to lay out some proof of that in a minute. I want you to read this story in the book of Exodus and see if it makes sense what I'm saying to you. So in this story in the book of Moses or the book of Exodus, we understand that God is dealing with people in terms of nations. See, the preacher got us looking at things as an individual separate from another individual. But God looks at it in terms of nations, and the individual is part of the nation. And so America is the Egypt. And this is what he did. He got the elders together. They went, he gave them instructions on what they were supposed to do. And when they became of age to be elders, they start speaking because the God was in them and compelled them to speak what they had been taught without them even knowing it. So he got them to get along, tried to get them to get along with one another. And then he taught them how to eat to live. And this is very, very important, because you notice when they were wandering around in the wilderness under confusion, he had stopped letting them eat food that they had gotten out of Egypt. But the preachers were along with the ride. They was along on the ride because they had no place in Egypt. But they brought along with them the thinking of the Egyptians. So it was them stirring up the people against Moses. And they were saying, at least in Egypt, we had leeks and garlic, but we out here eating manna from heaven. So Elijah Muhammad. Now, let me stop here. Because see, like I said, you don't know the gods of your father. He writes this book, and I got it up here somewhere. Message to the Black Man in America. There's that one. And How to Eat to Live. There's that one. So this man right here with a 4th grade education told us to stop eating the way we had been taught how to eat. And that the way that we were learning how to eat was killing us. So he writes a book called How to Eat to Live. Now, I don't call myself no Muslim. I'm, quite frankly, very comfortable with following Jesus Christ. But I got to be able to tell you the truth the way it shows up. So they're in Egypt, wandering around in Egypt, and the preachers are telling the people, we can eat anything we want as long as we pray over it. We can eat anything we want as long as we bless it. And so you blessing and praying and high blood pressure and stroking out and diabetes and all kind of stuff. They rejected him and said, no, we can't eat that. We can't eat like this. We're going to eat like Pharaoh taught us how to eat. He's got the science. He's talking about, the 5 daily doses of food that you need to eat. He's got the medicine to cure us from eating the way he says to eat. This man says, no, eat 1 meal a day, and this is what you eat. And he gives instructions on how to work your way up to that whole idea. And so one of the first things that God did when he got them outside of Egypt is the elders began to teach the people how to eat to live. And the preachers among them kept the people in confusion and said, as long as you pray over it, it's going to be blessed. But you're dying from it. See, the proof is in the effect. And so now the wise doctors are now telling us 1 meal a day. So that's another thing the God of their fathers did. He told them who he was. He taught them how to get along with each other, and he taught them how to eat to live. And they was eating the manna from heaven. This was the angel food, as they called it, and they did not want the angel food. And the preachers took the opportunity to say, well, look, at least we had leeks and garlic back in Egypt. We was dying at 5 years old, but at least the food tasted good. And then he gave them a model for civilization. And this model for civilization is based in love. But I want to focus on your mind. The Million Man March represented the call of the elders together. We were children at that time, but God saw the elders. And then the last thing before the great time was he called them together, and I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to drop it off here. He called them together. He said, I want you to stay in the house because the plagues that's about to come down on Egypt are going to get more and more intense, and you're going to understand who it is that you're dealing with. So I want you to put the blood on your doorpost so you can appear as dead to the angel of death, and he will pass you by. You see. And this whole death is the appearance of the death of Christ. But Christ can't die, but he can appear dead to the angel of death because the blood is outside the body. And this signifies that when blood is outside the body, is death. Blood inside the body signifies life. So eat with your family. Sit down a day out of the week and eat with your family so that you can reconcile with your family. Begin to put your family together and blend families together. It is time for us to do this because it's not going to be individuals. Them churches going to be empty, baby. They're going to be empty. Your family is where you start. What is your problem when you want to love everybody except the one right in front of you? As long as you don't meet him, you love him. As long as you don't meet her, you love her. Eat with your family. Reconcile with your children and your nephews and your aunts and uncles because we're about to see something happen that you never saw before. And I want to tell you this, that it is not about the color of your skin, because they came out of Egypt a mixed multitude. It was not Hebrews, it was not the Egyptians, it was all of them. It was a mixed multitude. And this is why you have the United States. It is a mixed multitude that's coming out of Egypt, which is America. So lastly, before I finish, here's the current situation. Jesus told this story in the Bible about this good man who planted this field. And in this field, he planted wheat. And the wheat was growing. He had individuals overseeing the field, and that those individuals somehow were put to sleep. And while they were sleeping, an enemy came in and planted tares or weeds. And these tares are very aggressive in nature. They sap up all the resources, and they keep it for themselves. They're greedy. They don't have a sense of enough. They see in lack, so they're aggressive. Their roots go in and they take all the nutrients from the wheat and each other. You see? So an enemy planted the tares into the same field that the wheat was planted in. And so when those who were set to watch woke up, they noticed, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? Something's wrong. Didn't you plant wheat? How then did these tares get in here? And so the good man that planted the wheat said, enemy came and planted them. And they said, well, what are we going to do? We're going to pull them up? Let's pull them up. He said, no, because if you pull them up right now, think about the Million Man March 27 years ago. If you pull them up now, they're right next to the wheat in the same field, and they look very close to the wheat. But the good man said, if you pull them up now, you're going to make a mistake of pulling up some of the wheat. And so I will lose as a result of you trying to pull it up now. They look close together, and so you'll make a mistake in your very attempt. But this is what we're going to do. We're going to let them grow together. And when they are grown, we will be able to see the nature of the wheat and the nature of the weeds. And that's when the rapture is going to happen. The rapture is not the righteous being pulled up. The rapture is the wicked being pulled up, bundled together for the fire. That is the rapture. So when they got you thinking that you about to get snatched out of the earth, then they're telling you that you're the wicked. Because under this scenario, it is the wicked that's first. He says, first, bundle the tares up for the fire. Then gather my wheat into my barns. So to give you the interpretation of this, the field is your mind. The wheat represents the thoughts of God that he planted in your mind at your creation. The watchers is the voice of God that was put to sleep in your mind. The enemy is the doctrine of Pharaoh. So when you come to the understanding of what's in your own mind, you begin to gather, the reapers come and gather the bundles, the thoughts of Pharaoh. He bundles them together for the fire. It's not talking about people, it's talking about your mind. The whole story is about you as an individual and what's going on within you. You're at war. The wheat, the thoughts of God, is warring with the thoughts of the enemy that's in the same field. And so you're trying to pull them up with your other thoughts. You see, your thoughts of judgment, trying to pull up the tares. But God is telling you to step back, because when you are sure of the nature of both the wheat and the tare, you will be ready to pull them up, and they're going to be easy to recognize. And here is where we are, brothers and sisters. We are at the end of the world and the beginning of a changing world order. I'm Alonzo Fleming. Join me next week as we begin on part 2 of our lesson. And by the way, you can support us via Cash App. Send us whatever you want to send us, and we will be happy with that. So 9:45, this is going to be part 2 of this. We're going to get deeper into this whole what we laid down. I know I was long-winded this morning, but I'm going to keep it down to an hour. I just want the latest good foundation for you. I'm out of here.